I want to go over the 4 questions and show you how to use these things properly. It is probably one of the greatest tools you'll ever use once you know how to use it. These questions were given to me and taught to me by Proctor. If you use them and you understand how to use them, it will help you move through decisions very quickly, very decisively. But you have to take the questions literally, okay? And this is where people make a mess of these questions. They're like, well, all of these things that I'm trying to make a decision on, fit these 4 questions. No, there's no way. There's absolutely no way that that's true. Let's start with the first one. Is this something I want to be, do, or have? This presupposes that you're extremely clear about what you want. And most people are not. They approach things in a, well, maybe not, I don't know, I need more information, whatever. Now, obviously, do whatever you have to do to get the information to be clear on finding out if it's what you really want. But you have to be extremely clear before you say yes to this. If you're not 100% in your yes on number 1, then you're 100% in your no. There can be no ambiguity in this question. And people don't like that. Some people feel trapped by that idea. And then my response is good. Because if you consistently waver, you're never going to get where you want to go in life. You've got to be clear, even if you're wrong, right? Even if you're wrong. If you don't understand how important it is for you to see crystally clear what it is that you want, then you're going to be floating around with a bunch of different ideas. You've got to be crystal clear on what you want. And it's okay to take your time to get crystal clear on what you want. But if you're not, you can't answer number 1 as a yes. It cannot be a maybe, right? The idea of maybe is for people that are living an average life. That's how they view things. Maybe if it's this, if it's that, if it's fun, if it's convenient, maybe. Somebody said to Raheem the other day, he called me and he goes, somebody said to me, they would love to be able to come to Becoming 12X, but they don't know what they're doing in June. Now think about that. They don't know what they're doing in June. That is a person that has no order in their thinking, and they do not understand the power of creating their life, making firm decisions as they go. That is when somebody goes, well, if there's something else better or something more important comes up, right? But I can't commit to it now. Because they're waiting for life to guide them. They're not guiding their life. And they don't know how crazy that sounds. You got to be in your yes 100% for number 1. And by the way, if number 1 is a no, you don't go to number 2. Okay? You just leave the rest of the questions, forget it. Number 2, is being, doing, or having this going to take me closer to my goal or my purpose? So you say yes to number 1 and now you're on number 2. What if you don't know? You don't go to number 3. You don't go to number 3. You do the work to find out if number 2 is going to take you closer to your goal. In other words, is this thing that I'm making a decision about worthy of me? So I have criteria in my life for this question. And for number 1, by the way, is this something that I want? Is it going to take me closer to the goal? And is it fun? Is it easy? Do I really want to do it? Because if I don't, it's a no. If you show me something and you go, David, this is gonna take you to your goal 10 times faster, or it's gonna make the goal 10 times bigger, or whatever, but you're gonna have to do a bunch of stuff that you don't want to do, I'm out.
That's sheer insanity. I'm out.
I'm out. And I don't lose anything for being out because I'm very decisive about what I want to do and the way that I want to do it. I don't want to do a bunch of shit in my life that I don't want to do to reach some arbitrary goal. I will sit down and figure out a way to do it in a way where I'll do the things that I want to do, right? If that means delegating, hiring somebody else to do those things, or finding another way. Proctor used to say to me, David, there's no right way. There's always another way. There's always another way. And that's true. So you have to be very clear on number 2. If you get a yes, then you move to number 3. Is being, doing, or having this in harmony with God's laws or the laws of the universe, which is basically the law of more life? Is this going to add to my life or take away from it? Is it going to add to the lives of others or take away from it. If you have to deceive in order to achieve, it's going to come back to you. You better believe. Even if you shade it a little bit, it's coming back to you. Whatever you put out comes back to you. Don't ever think you're getting ahead because you shaded something. You're not. You may win the checker game in the moment, but in the long run, you've attracted a disaster into your life by doing that. And most people lie all the time. All the time. Not in a deceptive way, but more of it in a deceptive way to themselves. Small stuff, like little white lie type stuff. You tell the kids, tell the guy at the door, I'm not home. Number one, you don't owe anybody a response to anything. Here's where people will come back at me at this. They'll say, well, what if somebody asks me a very specific question? Well, first of all, and I don't want to tell them what it is, right? You don't owe anybody an answer. Just because somebody asks you a question doesn't mean you have to answer it. You could say, I choose not to answer that question. Or that's none of your business. But that's when we want somebody to like us more than we're afraid to offend them, then we start changing ourselves. And it's very easy then to become deceptive. So that third question is very serious. Is this going to add to my life? So think about this. What things add to your life, right? And if you make a decision, what experience is going to add to your life? What experiences are you willing to have in your life? I want to do things that are fun. I also want to do things that challenge me. I want to do things that are exciting. I don't want to do things that are boring. I don't want to do things I'm not interested in, even if somebody else is interested in it, right? Life's too short. I think you should go do it. Go have fun. Go do your thing. Do whatever it is, but I'm not interested. So if you get a yes, go to number 4, is being, doing, or having this, does it violate the rights of others? The right that you don't want to violate with others is you don't want to take away their choice. Now, the biggest question I get with number 4 is usually in the area of getting a divorce. Somebody will say, well, I want to get a divorce, but aren't I taking away my spouse's choice? No, you're not. Because a marriage is the agreement of 2 people. If it was just one person, then of course you'd be taking away somebody else's choice, but it's not. It is the agreement of 2 people. You're not saying your spouse can't be married. You're saying your spouse can't be married to you. And that is your right. And it does not take away their choice, right? So you have to think about, with the exception of children, this number 4 question, right? Because kids don't always get a choice because they don't know what's good for them. But with adults, you don't have the right to take away their choice. This is where the truth is very important. I see this a lot. People in business don't want to tell an employee the truth because they're afraid they'll leave. So they sugarcoat it. Yeah, you're doing okay. You're doing all right. You're doing fine. You're trying. You get there, right? Instead of going, no, you're not cutting it. You need to either step it up or this job's not for you. And that's okay. But whatever you do, you don't want to take away another person's choice. You can be very honest with people and be kind at the same time. Remember, if something hurts, that's how they're perceiving it. And sometimes we need to hear the truth, and it stings to hear that truth, but that's our perception. That's not what somebody else did. We still have our choice, right? We can choose how we receive a message, how we think about a message. Doesn't matter how you deliver it. It matters how I choose to receive it, right? If I'm a person that's offended, then there's all kinds of stuff out there that's going to offend me. I can very much disagree with something without being offended by it. I don't have to agree with you, and you don't have to agree with anybody else. You could stay in your own position. Now, if you get 3 yeses and a no, the last question should be no, then you make a decision. But you have to be very clear on all 4 of those questions. The number 1 part of this set is the first most vitally important. It's your clarity. And that's where people lose it the most. They're just not clear. They're just not clear. Now, that could be fear. It could be superstition. It could be worrying about hurting somebody else's feelings. It could be worrying about what somebody else thinks. It could be a lot of different things. But the key is that you're 100% clear. That's your job. Your job is to be clear about your life. The more you visualize, right, whether it's you're intellectually putting things together or it's a real visualization or how you feel it in your body, the more clear you are about that, the easier it is to say yes or no when stuff shows up. But if you have a different agenda behind that, like I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, then all of a sudden your clarity's been clouded by something different and you can't make the decision because you think that something is similar when it isn't. So this is about maturity in a very big way, raising yourself to a higher standard, holding yourself at that standard, right? Being your own person regardless, and being honest with yourself about what you sincerely want and what you sincerely want to commit to. When you do that, you can then begin to stack those standards on top of each other and build an amazing structure. But if you can't on the bottom, it doesn't matter what you put on the top, it'll fall apart because you become the weakest link. Where are we the weakest link? Where we won't keep our word. If you're building a marriage, if you're building a business, if you're raising a family, you're building a team, your word is the cement foundation that allows everything else to work. Without that, you're the problem, and everything will eventually crumble because you don't have the intestinal fortitude to stay with something when it's difficult, when you're tired, if you don't feel well, if something goes wrong, you can't say no to other people, you become the issue, right? It just shatters at that level and everything comes down. If you look at almost everything that goes wrong in any relationship, if you bring it down to the very basic, like where did this start? Somebody didn't keep their word. Somebody didn't do what they said they were going to do. How that turned out is almost irrelevant. The fact that they didn't keep their word, it let more of the problem in. It let the negativity in. It just causes massive chaos. And then everything crumbles. So doing what you say you're going to do, making yourself do that, building that part of yourself up is the most critical thing that you can do to be successful in any area of your life. And you're better off saying no than saying yes if you know you're not going to follow through. Because at least you could stay within the integrity of where you are in your own growth at that point. And then you can work on it. Your success falters where you stop. And where you stop is where you're not willing to keep your word. I'm not going to make the call every day. I'm not going to go on the street and knock on the doors. I'm not going to ask for a bigger amount. I'm not going to spend more money on myself. Wherever that happens, that's where you create the problem and everything starts to go down. You want to have success. You're over here, success is over here. There's two questions that you have to answer in the middle in order to bridge that gap to get it. Number one, am I able to do it, right? Do you believe that you have the ability to do this? That's a heavy question. So you have to say yes to that, but then you have to say yes to number two. Am I willing? Am I willing what? Am I willing whatever? Whatever is necessary, because not one of us can tell you what's necessary to go from where you are to where you want to be. We could tell you strategies and, that kind of stuff. But what you have to do personally to make that change, nobody knows. That's everybody's hero journey, right? That's everybody's life adventure. But you have to say yes. And when you say yes, you have to say it not knowing what the content of that travel will be. And then that's the first place that you're being your word. So when something shows up and you go, I don't have the money, I don't have the time, somebody's going to be upset with me, I don't feel like it, you're breaking your word at the very first doorstep of the success that you said that you wanted. It's not a kid's game, folks. It's not. It's serious. It always comes back down to checking yourself and going, okay, the real problem is here is I'm not following through on what I said, or I'm not adapting to the level of maturity that I need to be able to go to the next level because I'm wavering around something, right? Maybe I don't like telling people the truth. Maybe I'm afraid to fire people. Maybe I'm afraid to make sales. Maybe I'm afraid to be seen. Whatever it is that it might be, it will stop at that level and you will go no further. So there's a lot in these 4 questions. There's a lot. And if you're clear, it will be one thing. And if you're in your yes, fantastic. If you're in your no, fantastic. But you've made a decision. And then you keep that channel open for the universe and everything can keep coming to you.